Judge, East African Court of Justice, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, and Heads of Commissions, honorable members of the East African Legislative Assembly, the chairperson of the East African Business Council, members of the business community, East African Business Council Board Directors, development partners, the media, all protocols observed. Good morning. Good morning. On behalf of His Excellency President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, and Chairman of the East African Community, I would like to express my appreciation to the East African Business Council and the East African Community Secretariat for the work and efforts put together in organizing this East African Business and Investment Summit. May I also seize this opportunity to thank the different private sector umbrella bodies at the national level for working hand in hand with the East African Business Council and mobilizing stakeholders in their respective countries to join us today. Last but far from least, allow me to acknowledge and welcome all the participants in this room for making the time to attend this event of importance for our region. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this Business and Investment Summit is unique since it is a celebration of 20 years of the revival of the East African community under the theme, East African Community at 20, Deepening Integration, Widening Cooperation. This event will allow us to take stock of achievements, impediments, and future prospects for the region based on progress made in the customs union and common market protocols against a backdrop of continental and global developments of all kinds. In our region, the importance of the private sector as a key driver of our economies cannot be understated. We are well aware that job and wealth creation will be what ultimately eradicates poverty and propels our countries into middle and high income status in the decades ahead. This was underlined in the treaty establishing the East African Community, which stipulated that our integration should be private sector-led, market-driven, and just as importantly, people-centered. Specifically, Article 127 of the treaty provides for the creation of an enabling environment for the private sector and civil society. As a result, East African Community partner states have been trying to improve the said business environment through the promotion of conducive investment codes, regulatory reforms, and market stimulation mechanisms. It is the recognition of this key role played by the private sector in our economies that led the East Africa Business Council and the East African Community Secretariat to strengthen the partnership and champion the private sector by pushing for the reforms required to overcome obstacles that stifle the entrepreneurial spirit and dynamism of business actors. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a region, we have a lot to rejoice in, but even more to look forward to. According to recent reports of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, East Africa Community is the fastest integrating regional bloc on the African continent. And this is attributed to tremendous achievements in the implementation of commitments applicable to the customs union and common market protocols. However, there are still challenges hindering free business in the region. A number of road bridges along transit routes with mismatch in measurement from one way bridge to another. Poor infrastructure that makes difficulties in movement of cargo, high roaming charges in some of the East African Community partner states, high cost of air tickets in the East African Community region, delayed finalization of common external tariff review process, and unfriendly regulatory frameworks still existing, and self-inflicted delays in key infrastructure projects, not to mention political tensions in the region. Distinguished delegates, the identified challenges can be solved. For instance, the high cost of air tickets can be addressed by open sky policy in East African Community, whereby the policy will simplify the air travels within the region. The one network area needs to be strengthened in East African Community to facilitate fair communication across the region and easy doing business. And we need to expedite the comprehensive review of the common external tariff and the harmonization of domestic tax regimes. On the cautious side of things, however, despite such key milestones toward trade and investment facilitations, efforts are still needed to improve the business environment and further lower the cost of doing business. The holding of this East African Business and Investment Summit is therefore timely, as our discussions will focus on how to unlock the bottlenecks to regional trade and investment and identify actions to achieve this goal. This is also an opportune time for the East African Business Council to support the process of integrating the region economically into the continent through the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which will officially start on July 1st, 2020. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement is a lot more than just a market access initiative. It is a tool for driving Africa's economic growth, diversification, and sustainable development. A market of over 1.3 billion people is a huge trading space with a GDP of over $3 trillion. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement provides limitless opportunity for Africa's economic transformation only if we implement it religiously and harness it for benefits. As such, we must position the private sector to be a major player in the EFCFTA, as the prospects of its success will largely depend on them. The main purpose of the EFCFTA is to create jobs by increasing productivity and exports and to create prosperity. It's therefore timely for the private sector to be at the table of decision-making to contribute to the regional integration debate in order to make integration more sustainable. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude these remarks by wishing ourselves a festive 20th anniversary. Our 20th journey has been a remarkable one indeed, with the signing of 3 protocols underlying the 4 pillars of integration, namely the Customs Union Protocol, the Common Market Protocol, and the Monetary Union Protocol. May we continue on that upward climb and celebrate many more years of economic integration. I wish to thank once again the East Africa Business Council and the Secretariat for organizing a business and investment summit, without doubt one of the landmark events of this 20th anniversary. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. Huyo alikuwa ni Dr. Vincent. Huyo alikuwa ni Dr. Vincent ambaye ni waziri wa mambo ya nje wa nchi ya Rwanda na ni mwenyekiti wa baraza la mawaziri la Afrika Mashariki. Tusikilize sana hapa akitukaribisha mgeni rasmi kuzungumza na Jumuiya ya Biashara Afrika Mashariki. Walikutana hapa katika hoteli ya Grand Melia mkoani Arusha kwa ajili ya mkutano mkuu wa biashara na uwekezaji Afrika Mashariki.
Good job to mobilize the entire Arusha to be here. I want to tell you that your peers
Dr. Parangi did a good job to make sure that everything is a big success. And I want to thank, therefore, the government of the United Republic of Tanzania for really hosting us and making this event a big success. I don't fit into the shoe of inviting you, the Honorable Minister representing His Excellency the President, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, but please allow me, with a lot of humility now, to welcome all of us, welcome the chair and the chief guest of this event, none other, Professor Parangamba Kabundi. Please, Professor, come and talk to us.
Waziri wa mambo ya nje na ushirikiano wa Afrika Mashariki wa Tanzania, Profesa Palamagamba Kabudi, nao wakiwa katika mimbari tayari kuzungumza na jumuiya ya wafanyabiashara waliofika hapa katika hoteli Grand Melia iliyopo Arusha.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and the International Cooperation of the Republic of Rwanda, honorable ministers from the East African Community partner states, Deputy Secretary General of the EAC, Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, President of the East African Court of Justice, Excellencies, High Commissioner and Ambassadors, Mr. Nicholas Nesbitt, Chairman of the East African Business Council, Honorable Members of Parliament, Governors of Central Banks, Members of the Mkutano, EAC Board of Directors, Members of the Business Community present, media, ladies and gentlemen, habari za asubuhi. First of all, let me start by an apology of coming a bit late. I've had 3 hectic days in Nairobi, traveled overnight, and I've had a lot of meetings this morning, and immediately after here I'm also rushing because I have a delegation waiting me at the airport for another meeting before they fly back to Europe. So if you see me after reading my opening remarks on behalf of the President rushing out, not that because I don't respect you, but because the schedule is tight and I wanted to be more here. On behalf of the President of the Republic of Tanzania, Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, I would like first of all to welcome you all to Tanzania and to Arusha. This is a very important meeting here in Arusha as we reflect on the 20 years of the existence of the current East African community. And I believe there's no better place to do this other than Arusha. And when we look at the 20 years, it means we are here to reminiscence and do a bit of reflection. And it is important when we do this reflection so that we appreciate the level of development which we have reached. Otherwise, if you don't know the depth from where you have come from, you might not appreciate the achievements which you have been able to achieve. This is not the first time we are talking about East African integration. And I don't want to go back to the kingdoms. Because that will be a long story, which indeed is a good subject of another day, especially by the young generation of East Africans, to know that integration was there before dawn of the coming of colonialism. But to know the East Africa that we are talking about today is basically a product of colonialism. And this checkered history of colonialism still impacts the development and the progress being made in EAC today. Perhaps had we been allowed to develop our own nation states, the borders and the configuration would have been different. But we are where we are because some people decided by rulers and pencils to say, here you are, there you are. And East Africa has experienced a checkered colonial history. And this is why when the East African integration started in the 1900s, what is today mainland Tanzania, Tanganyika, and what is today Rwanda and Burundi were out of the map because they were a German colony. It was what is today Uganda and Kenya. Starting with the East African High Commission of Governors. The governor of the Kenya colony, which was a crown colony, and the governor of the protectorate, which is Uganda. Uganda assigned peasant cash economy, and Kenya assigned white settler economy. Where lands of central Kenya, which were then called as White Highlands, were appropriated, given to the settlers, and those poor Kikuyus pushed to the Rift Valley among the Maasai and the Kalenjin. And it rears its ugly head in 2007 in the post-election violence in the Rift Valley. Because these Kikuyu squatters pushed among the Maasai and among the Kalenjin. Most of us did not realize what befell Kenya in 2007. The so-called post-election violence was partly a result of appropriation of the lands in central Kenya and given to the white settlers. This is what Tanzania mainland escaped when their colonial masters, the Germans, were defeated in the First World War. And this is why among the places in Tanzania where you have land scarcity is Kilimanjaro and Arusha. Because here is where you had the most fertile land, where the German colonial settlers wanted to grab and have their farms. And again, this country, what is today mainland Tanzania, was the crown colony of Kaiser Wilhelm, the crown colony. Under military administration, with the exception of Rwanda, Urundi, and the Bukoba, Beresik. And after the defeat of the Germans, is when now what is today mainland Tanzania is now pushed or pulled in the East African High Commission. The first test of the East African High Commission comes in 1961, when this former German colony, known as Tanganyika, which became the Cinderella of East Africa, because it was not a colony, it was not a protectorate, but rather a trustship territory of East of the United Nations, where the British never felt any responsibility of developing it, with no industry, with no infrastructure, is now being pushed in East Africa. What was the reaction of Nyerere? He says, I can't sit with colonial governors. Mzekivenjija is here. Now that is when you have the birth of the East African Common Services Organization. Now let us focus on Common Services Organization. And it is when the Prime Minister of Tanganyika, and later on the President of Tanganyika, says, now I can sit. It was during the East African Common Services Organization that Tanganyika, then Tanzania, raised. It is time now we as independent East Africans, especially after the independence of Kenya in 1963, Uganda 62, Kenya 63, Zanzibar 63 December, and then revolution 64. What were the basic questions asked by Tanzania in 1963, 64, which are relevant today? It was the question of correcting the historical colonial inequities where Tanganyika had no single industry, which means it had nothing to sell in the common market. And it is when now Tanganyika comes with what was known as the Kampala Agreement of 1964. And the Kampala Agreement of 1964, it was before socialism, mind you, by the way. Where Tanganyika and Mwalimu Nyerere is saying it is high time now. Also, industries are allocated to Tanganyika and to Uganda. So that also Tanganyika and Uganda has something to sell in the East African Common Market. We don't say industries in Kenya should be closed, not at all. And in the Kampala Agreement of 1964, Mzee Benjinja is here. It is when it was agreed, all investors who are investing in East Africa, in transistor radio, today when you talk of transistor radio, in the world of 5G, you are talking of an archaic world. But at that time, in the 1960s, for those of my age, the transistor radio was a big revolution. And bought tires for cars and cement. And this is why. And Uganda was given confectionery, sugar, textile. So that textile from Uganda will be sold in the East African common market. Transistor radios and those dry cells, batteries, and tires from Tanganyika will be sold in the East African common market. And definitely, Kenya will continue to dominate the market because that is where the industry was. Understandably. Zeki Benjinja here. The Kampala Agreement of 1964 was misinterpreted. And this is why, again, in 1965, under the Mbale Agreement, it was agreed to revise the Kampala Agreement. What revision? Also to allow some industries to be allocated to Kenya. Because the 1964 was as if now Kenya would mark time. And understandably, Kenya did not want to mark time. Why mark time? I'm saying this because few meters from here, Philips company from the Netherlands built their first transistor industry in East Africa, few meters from here. This is why you have Philips. And then you go down the road to Njiro, you find General Tires from US. That is where now the tire factory for East Africa was built. Who were the investors? Philips from the Netherlands and General Tire from United States of America. What do I want to tell you? The private sector was there even before the second community. Which means it is not the first time that the private sector is conceived as the driver of our integration. Which means it is important to reflect what happened. And because there was a lot of intra-trade imbalance in favor of Kenya to the disadvantage of Uganda and Tanganyika, then Tanzania, is when another commission was formed in 1965, the Phillips Commission. Phillips came from the Caribbean. Actually, in the life of the tribulations of EAC, twice we had Caribbeans coming. It was Phillips, and then Eames is when we agreed to form the East African Common Market. So the East African Community, which was formed in 1967, its end goal was the East African Common Market and not beyond, which is different with the current one. That one, the final station, was the East African Common Market. And we had the East African Common Market Tribunal, which has been succeeded by the East African Court of Justice. Because the East African Court of Appeal was not part of the EAC scheme. It was part of the British colonial scheme under the Privy Council and down. And the community of 1967 had resident ministers here in Arusha. And one of the ministers was the Minister of the Common Market. From the establishment of the community in 1967 to its demise in 1977, it was Robert Ouko from Kenya. Because Kenya was assigned the common market. Uganda was assigned the infrastructure and the social services. And the last one was Colonel Marijan. And Tanganyika, or Tanzania, which had raised a lot of questions. But we want to be in a community, but an equitable community, was given two positions. The Secretary General and the Minister for Finance and Administration. And among the Secretary Generals was Mzee and he has written a book on it, who became our first governor. Ministers for Finance and Administration. And let us not forget, and we are saying this not because we want to go to that, but we need to know. But unfortunately, there were a lot of forces, internal and external, which led to the acrimonious collapse of that community, which was even higher developed than the European Economic Community. Already between 67 and 77, people were using ID. We had one university, the University of East Africa, with 3 university colleges, Dar es Salaam, Makerere, and Nairobi, and each one of them with a specialization. Dar es Salaam, which was law, education, and political science. Makerere, medicine, agriculture, forestry. Nairobi, engineering, veterinary medicine, and business administration. And one chancellor, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. But because of our selfish ends, when in 1970 now, each country wanted a national university, and I don't want to say which country today, because we are celebrating 20 years. Mwalimu went to invest Obote, Mzekivenjija is here. Actually it was Uganda. Finishing the investiture of Obote as the Chancellor of Makerere University, then went to Nairobi for the investiture of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta as the Chancellor of the University of Nairobi. And he was very emotional. And he said, he remarked, we have killed East Africa. And the East African standard ridiculed him. But Mwalimu was correct. But by dismantling the University of East Africa in 1970, we killed East Africa. You see, I studied European Union law in Freie Universität Berlin. Das ist, wo ich habe promoviert. Who would sign protocols, who would sign treaties. But a community, a sustainable community, is made by humans, and especially the young people. And the place, the happening of these young East Africans was the universities. Because all lawyers from Kenya, from Uganda, from Tanzania trooped to Dar es Salaam And all medical doctors from Tanzania, from Kenya, from Uganda trooped to Mulago. And all the engineers and veterinary doctors trooped to Nairobi. That is the generation I envy. They knew each other at an age where they were still innocent. You know, I always remind my colleagues and remind myself, any new friend I get today is a strategic friend. There's something he wants from me, and there's something I want to get from him or her. Indeed, we lost that certainty. But each region has its own history and drivers of the and now the demise of the 77th Constitution was very acrimonious. Borders between Tanganyika and Tanzania and Kenya were closed. And the English were saying misfortunes come in droves. The following year, the United Republic of Tanzania was attacked by a crazy dictator and compelled to go to war, where this country spent $5 million US single-handedly. And at the same time, it had the responsibility of assisting other African countries. Mozambique, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Namibia, Angola, and even Zambia, which was landlocked. But still, to Mwalimu Nyerere, even after the demise, the acrimonious demise of in 1977 of the East African community, for him, he continued to tell us, the East African integration is not a matter of choice, is a necessity. So I have recounted all that to tell you we are dealing with a project which is a necessity for our own survival. And learning from the past mistakes. This is why the current East African Treaty is a framework treaty. Let us not forget, when we converged again, there was a lot of mistrust. You know, a broken marriage comes with a lot of scars, a lot of question marks. And most so when most of the dirty bedroom details have been put to the public. But again, it was the prodding, and I'm saying so because it is also 20 years of remembrance of Mwalimu Nyerere. Again, it was the prodding of Mwalimu, especially to William Seven and President Mwinyi and President Moi, that it is time again we come together. And this is why we started with the tripartite commission, which gave birth to the current East African community, which is people-centered, and the private sector. So something is missing there. The private sector, you are selfish. You should have said people-centered and the private. Yes, because you are driving towards the welfare of the East Africans. And having studied in the Federal Republic of Germany, I'm an advocate of the social market economy. And I was expecting my good German friend to tell us about the social market economy and not the free market economy. That is what has made Germany to be Germany, Sweden to be Sweden, Denmark to be Denmark, Norway to be Norway. It's where the market also caters for the social interest of that society. This is why they have insurance, even for unemployed. About loss. It's right. They have. Because it is a social market economy. It's a market economy, but sensitive to the social imperatives of the society. So as it was in the past, it is also now. Our community must be private sector driven, but a people-centered community. If we lose that focus of people-centered community, this community won't be sustainable. And this is why I agree with Amos Wako in their report on the Federation. They say there are two types of integration: trade-centered integration and development-centered integration. For us, for the next, again, another 20 years, should be a development-centered integration, which means we are not relegating trade, not at all. And if you want to be a development-centered integration, the private sector is very important, because you want to build industries, infrastructure. I and the Honorable President of the East African Court of Justice served in 2 commissions, in 2 teams appointed by the Summit on the East African Federation. And we had a lot of debate and a lot of discussion, very open, very frank. And we reminded each other. Indeed, we have the 4 freedoms in the East African Common Market Protocol. But in order for these freedoms to be realizable, we need also to develop the following: infrastructure. Because you cannot talk about free movement of goods if you don't have good roads and railway. Another friend of mine is there. Together. We're discussing the East African Common Protocol. Infrastructure. In Europe today, infrastructure is not an issue because it is there. The Bundesbahn. Here, we still have the obligation of building modern railways in order to make freedom of goods effective and realizable, but also cost effective. Otherwise, the goods will be expensive, because also transportation the cost is high. Free movement of people, we discussed. We were discussing about free movement of mamambogas, not of skilled workers, which means what? We need to create skilled labor in our countries, invest in science and technology and innovation. In Europe, it's no longer an issue. For us here, it's an issue. How much do we invest in research and development in science, technology, and investment? Free movement of services. How do you move a tourist in Zanzibar and in 1 hour he's arriving at Kigali, and the next day he's in Uganda, and the day after he's in Mombasa? In Europe, it's no longer an issue. Which means what? Our integration, as much as must follow the freedoms and principles, needs to anchor itself in the realities of East Africa. And what has made this community to survive the 20 years? And actually, let me tell you, the first 10 years there was a lot of anxiety, because the other community collapsed at 10 years, and they were saying, God, save us from this bad omen. Yeah. And there was a big celebration at the stadium. And I'm sure for the young people, they were surprised why these old people of the age of Givenjinja, they are so happy. But it is 10 years. It is 10 years. It's because we are past the 10 years which cast us in the first integration. We are now even more elated that it is 20 years. But do you know how we achieved those 20 years? Because of pragmatism and gradualism. Pragmatism and gradualism. And there are many who criticize that, because they are looking at the treaty and the protocol and they want speed. But once bitten, Nice child. So that pragmatism and gradualism has made us to survive to our 20th anniversary. We should not regret of our speed. Instead, we should applaud the wisdom of those who brought. But now it is time, when we reflect on the way forward, to reflect on the way forward which will make all East African countries to be part of this community. When we were negotiating the East African Common Market Protocol, my friend is here, when Tanzania came with the concept of East African industries, which again will be allocated to a specific country, people say that is socialism. No. And I'll say openly, at that time we were saying, you cannot have a member of the community like Burundi selling nothing to the community and then say, we are together. Together when they are selling nothing. Make them sell something. That is what Europe did to Greece, to Portugal, to Spain. There won't be a modern Spain, a modern Portugal, a modern Greece without the sacrifice of Germans pumping money and investment. I'm saying the truth or I'm lying, sir? Yes. Solidarity. So as we reflect in the future, let us see how the other countries in East Africa which have less industries, the private sector, you have a responsibility not only of waiting for conducive environment, but for you going there and creating a conducive environment. That is what Bismarck said. That is what Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck said. You don't wait until the iron is hot in order to hit it. Make it hot and then hit it. No, I've said all that because the president told me just to say, I wish you all the best. Congratulate the East African Business Council on this keynote milestone and wish you a fruitful deliberations during these 2 days. Now, it is my singular honor and privilege to pronounce the high-level East African Business and Investment Summit officially opened.
Thank you so much. You may take your seat, Honorable Kabudi, as we officially launch the East Africa Business and Investment Summit. Ladies and gentlemen, our work has begun. It has been cut out. There you have it. Round of applause as we begin these important deliberations. At this point, I'd like to invite the regional ministers to join their counterparts here on stage. Regional ministers from Kenya, from Uganda, Burundi, and South Sudan, kindly make your way up to the stage. We'd like to commemorate this occasion with a photo. It is also an accountability measure, so anyone who is in that photo, we will hold accountable for the success of this region. We'll have them come up. We'll also have various parties join them as we commemorate this point. Honorable Kabudi taking us through a lesson of the EAC and the reason why we need such an engagement. Now, I request for the honorable ministers, EABC chair, to rise so we can have you arranged, and the photographers, shutterbugs, can get in position to capture this moment. Members of the Fourth Estate in position, wonderful, so we can capture this momentous occasion as well. Indeed, our work has been cut out for us. Can we please have the honorable ministers rise? Wonderful. And also move to the center of the stage so we can capture the Tanzanian minister as well. Kindly make your way up, sir. Apologies for that. The Minister for Trade here in the United Republic of Tanzania, thank you so much. Wonderful. We're going to have them positioned there to join this photo. So we'll have the honorable ministers take the photo first. after which we will have various individuals join in as well. There we have it. The President Judge also joined the photo as well. I will be calling on you, so kindly make your way up once you do hear your name or title.
Na mpenzi mtazamaji wa TBC1, kama unavyojionea katika televisheni yako, mgeni rasmi akiwa pamoja na mawaziri waliofika hapa katika hoteli ya Grand Melia katika mkutano mkuu wa biashara na uwekezaji wa Afrika Mashariki unaofanywa na Baraza la Biashara la Afrika Mashariki. Baraza hili lilianzishwa mwaka 1997 lakini lilianza kufanya kazi rasmi mwaka 1999 na leo likiadhimisha miaka 20. Na mwanzo lilikuwa na nchi 3 ambazo ni Tanzania, Kenya na Uganda, lakini mwaka 2007 nchi za Rwanda na Burundi zikaingia, na mwaka 2016 nchi ya South Sudan ikaingia, na muhimili wake ni sekta binafsi. Lengo kuu la baraza hili ni kutoa taarifa za uwekezaji kwa wafanyabiashara katika nchi husika, hususan za Afrika Mashariki, na wanachama walianza kukubali wafanyabiashara wakubwa wenye uwekezaji ambao sio wananchi wa nchi wanachama, kama ambavyo umejionea mwenyekiti wa taasisi hii ya EABC Nicholas akiwa yeye ni mwenye biashara na uwekezaji katika nchi hizi za Afrika Mashariki. Hapo mwanzo ilikuwa ni kwa wazawa tu, lakini baadaye tumeona kwamba hata na wale wenye biashara katika nchi hizi wameweza kuwa mojawapo kati ya wanachama wa baraza hili la biashara la Afrika Mashariki. Malengo makuu ni kuchochea ukuaji wa uchumi katika nchi za Afrika Mashariki, lakini pia kuchochea ukuaji wa uchumi na kuhakikisha basi wananchi na wafanyabiashara wanaweza kuwa na sera na miundombinu bora ya ufanyaji biashara na uwekezaji katika nchi wanachama, ili kuhakikisha kipato cha wananchi wa jumuiya hizi kinaweza kukua. Ni hayo ni machache tu yalijiri hapa katika hoteli ya Grand Melia, ambapo kuna mkutano mkuu wa biashara na uwekezaji na wakuu wa taasisi mbalimbali kutoka sekta binafsi kutoka nchini Tanzania. Geoffrey Simbeye ni mmoja hapo kati ya watu walioko hapa, lakini pia wenzie kutoka Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, South Sudan na Burundi pia wako hapa. Na baadhi ya mawaziri hapa nchini Tanzania wakiwa wamemsindikiza waziri Profesa Magamba Kabudi ni Innocent Bashungwa, waziri wa viwanda na biashara, waziri wa kilimo Jafet Hasunga. Hao ni baadhi ya mawaziri ambao kupitia wizara zao basi mkutano huu unahusisha na unakutanisha wawekezaji pamoja na wafanyabiashara katika jumuiya hii ya Afrika Mashariki ambayo hii leo imesherehekea miaka 20 tangu kuanza kufanya kwake kazi, na ikiongozwa na kauli mbiu inayosema kwanza miaka 20 ya private sector inayosaidia ukuaji wa mahusiano katika nchi za Afrika Mashariki. Na kama unavyojionea pale wakiwa wamesimama pale mbele baadhi ya wafanyabiashara kutoka nchi mbalimbali na wakuu wa taasisi hizi za sekta binafsi zinazohusika na uwekezaji pamoja na biashara katika nchi za Afrika Mashariki.
Again, if we have limited space, of course we want to accommodate everyone on the stage. We do also have room right in front of the stage. Thank you so much. Wonderful. You may take your seats. Those are the National Focal Point CEOs and Chairman. Thank you. Next, EAC and EALA members present. Kindly make your way up. EAC and EALA members, our legislators.
EALA members hao ni baraza la secretariat ya Afrika Mashariki, ambao kutokana na kwao ndipo hapa baraza hili la biashara la Afrika Mashariki limeweza basi kusimama hapa. Inaundwa na jumuiya ya wafanyabiashara na secretariat hiyo ya Afrika Mashariki. Kwa hiyo hawa ni wadau muhimu na wakubwa hususan katika mkutano huu wa mkuu wa biashara wa uwekezaji Afrika Mashariki unaofanyika hapa jijini Arusha. Kama unavyoona katika picha ya televisheni yako, basi wakiwa wanapata picha pamoja na mgeni rasmi na viongozi waliopo katika eneo hili. Na nikueleze tu mpenzi mtazamaji, moja kati ya kazi ambayo sekta binafsi inaifanya sasa hivi katika jumuiya nzima ni kuhakikisha basi wanaendeleza ujuzi, kuanzisha yale yanayoitwa mabaraza ya ujuzi, ili kuhakikisha basi nguvu kazi hususan ya vijana katika nchi za Afrika Mashariki inakuwa na ujuzi unaotatikana kuweza kukidhi vigezo vya ushindani, lakini pia uwekezaji kuhakikisha inatoa kile kilicho bora. Na kama unavyoweza kujionea katika televisheni yako ambavyo katika televisheni yako baadhi ya wadau mbalimbali wa sekta binafsi kutoka nchi hizi za Afrika Mashariki pamoja na wadhamini wao wakienda kupiga picha.
We'll have the sponsors and speakers come on right after the EABC staff and gold members take their photo. Kindly request your patience as we try to facilitate the photo session. Thank you so much. As I said, these are the individuals who have made this event possible, so we appreciate them. EABC staff, thank you so much. You may take your seats. Now calling on the sponsors and speakers who will be addressing the various panel discussions throughout the day, today and tomorrow. Kindly make your way up. The individuals who will be thinking us through the next phase of the East African region. Speakers, sponsors, kindly make your way up. We appreciate your presence.
Mtazamaji wa TBC1, kama ndio kwanza unafungulia televisheni yako, kama unavyojionea katika picha ni baadhi ya wajumbe waliohudhuria katika mkutano wa biashara wa uwekezaji Afrika Mashariki. Nikuelezea kidogo kuhusiana na baraza la biashara la Afrika Mashariki. Baraza hili ni muhimili wa sekta binafsi na lilianzishwa mahususi basi katika kuhakikisha kunakuwa na Afrika Mashariki isiyo na mipaka katika biashara na uwekezaji, pia kuhimiza ukuaji wa sekta binafsi. Ilianzishwa mwaka 1997 na mwanzoni ilikuwa na nchi 3 tu za Tanzania, Kenya na Uganda, lakini mwaka 2007 ikaongezeka nchi za Rwanda na Burundi, na mwaka 2016 nchi ya Sudani Kusini iliongezeka. Muhimili wake ni sekta binafsi imara, na lengo ni kutoa taarifa za uwekezaji kwa wafanyabiashara katika nchi za Afrika Mashariki, hizi nchi 6 za Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda pamoja na Sudani Kusini. Moja katika malengo yake ni kuchochea kwa ukuaji wa uchumi katika nchi hizi za Afrika Mashariki, lakini pia ikiwa ina baadhi ya watu wanaounda baraza hili ni Secretariat ya Afrika Mashariki, lakini pia jumuiya ya wafanyabiashara. Na kauli mbiu hapa ni miaka 20 ya sekta binafsi katika kanda ya Afrika Mashariki kukuza uwekezaji na biashara. Na kama alivyozungumza mgeni rasmi, alisema pia ili katika kuweza kufikia hivi sekta binafsi inatakiwa kuhakikisha basi inaangazia maendeleo ambayo yanaangazia maendeleo ya watu, uwekezaji ambao unajali maslahi ya watu, ili basi watu wanavyoweza kuenda kusonga mbele waweze kusonga kwa pamoja, lakini pia maendeleo hayo yaweze kuangalia namna gani basi watu wa mataifa husika wanavyoweza kunufaika. Mtazamaji, kukuletea matangazo haya wapiga picha tulikuwa nao hapa ni Mary Hondo, Victor Gunze na Haikal Mushi. Katika sauti tulikuwa naye Harry Temba, fundi ni Editor Chenga, Isa Jumanne na Christopher Mkama, mchanganya picha ni Hamisi Musa, mwongozaji wa matangazo haya ni Chacha Sinda, msimamizi ni Gerald Uwiso, na mimi niliyekuletea matangazo hayo tangu mwanzo mpaka hapa tunapofikia tamati. Naitwa Gloria Michael nikikuaga kutoka hapa Grand Melia jijini Arusha nchini Tanzania katika mkutano wa mwaka wa Baraza la Biashara la Afrika Mashariki. Mpaka wakati mwingine nikutakia utazamaji mwema wa vipindi vinavyoendelea hapa TBC1, kweli hakika.
Na mlikuwa ukifuatilia matangazo ya moja kwa moja kutoka kule mkoani Arusha, ambapo ilikuwa ni mkutano mkuu wa Baraza la Wafanya Biashara na Uwekezaji wa Afrika Mashariki. Mtangazaji wetu huko alikuwa ni Gloria Michael. Kwa niaba ya wote na kutakia utazamaji mzuri wa vipindi vinavyoendelea, asante.
Hiki ni kishindo cha awamu ya 5.
Hiki ndicho kishindo cha awamu ya 5, na huyu ndiye Jemedari Rais Dr. John Pombe Magufuli.
Hiki ni kipindi pekee utakachojionea namna serikali ilivyowafikia wananchi kwa kuwapeleka miradi inayowagusa moja kwa moja. Ni miradi ya huduma za jamii, yaani afya, elimu, miundombinu, maji, umeme na yale yote yanayowagusa wananchi.
Hapa naona ni karibu sana na sisi. Nikiugua hata usiku naweza nikabeba hata na basikeli nikaletwa hapa.
Mashule unaona yanakarabatiwa, yanajengwa, madaraja yanafanywa.